Okay, guys, today we're going to look at the pseudo causes of the Civil War. Now, this word pseudo, you may or may not have heard it before, but we're going to talk about it as more of a prefix rather than a whole word unto itself. But the idea, what does pseudo mean? Well, pseudo is when something is, well, it's kind of the same as, but not exactly. So, for example, spam. Spam is kind of like steak. Steak and spam are both meat. However, are they really the same? I think you'd much rather have steak than you would have spam. So spam is like pseudo steak. It's kind of one of those things where uh, it's a lesser product. It's not as good as steak. So that's the idea. Is it's pseudo. And in this terms, a pseudo cause, it's a cause that isn't independent of itself, or it can't be its own. This one thing happened, so it caused the Civil War. That is just not the case with these other three causes or pseudo causes. Whereas with slavery, slavery causes the Civil War independently. Okay, so let's get our spam stuff out of the way here. Let me click on that and fold it up for you. Now, we're going to look at these pseudos. So the three pseudos, that's like, I don't know, some Italian guys. No, it's not at all. The pseudos are states' rights, tariffs, and let's group these a little closer together so we can see them all even a little bit easier. Okay, so there's states' rights, tariffs, or import taxes. They're the same thing. These are synonyms here. Okay, and sectionalism. So let's look at states' rights first. Now, the idea that states had a power to disagree with and pick and choose what they would follow, what laws they would follow. That's the idea that the Southerners had about states' rights. Now, they are saying that they have the right to leave the Union if they want to. But why are they saying that they have the right to leave the Union? Well, they're saying that because they may want to decide, okay, we want to go do something totally different because they want to avoid laws like ending slavery. Okay, that's a big deal right there. That's the big motivation. When Abraham Lincoln is elected, he's elected on almost a platform of abolishing slavery. There have been many debates with him and other presidential candidates, and he's the guy who's coming out looking like the one who's wanting to end slavery, and that really scares the southern states. And so that's why they secede. That's why they exercise their states' rights, according to them, is so that they can leave the Union because of slavery. Well, if they're leaving the Union, exercising states' rights because of slavery, well, then it's not an independent cause. Okay, states' rights can't, they're not going to, well, we decided to leave because of spam. No, I mean, that's ridiculous. So they're leaving over something pretty big, and that's this idea to keep slavery. So therefore, its connection to slavery, states' rights argument is a reaction to slavery. It means it's not independent. All right, so let's fold this one up here real quick. Get that out of the way. Now let's look at tariffs. Now the tariffs were import taxes. Now these tariffs are also a reaction to slavery, but they're a reaction to slavery on behalf of the North. The North is taking an action because of slavery. And the South doesn't like the tariffs because they're the ones who are paying these taxes, but the North is passing these taxes because of slavery. Here's how. So I'm going to pop some stuff up, and you'll see here as we go across. Okay, so in this time period, the North is manufacturing goods. They have factories, they have workers, they pay their workers. All of this is going on in the North, and those folks make all kinds of goods. Everything, bicycles, buttons, all sorts of stuff is made in factories in the north. That's how they do things up there. Okay, now in the south, they grow cotton. Okay, or they grew cotton and traded with England to bring home goods. Okay, so bicycles, buttons, hats, typewriters, well, not typewriters back then, but all kinds of goods are coming home to the United States for sale through the South. The North is making those exact same goods. Okay, this is putting them in direct competition. So now, the North sold goods it produced. The South sold goods it traded for. This arrow, they're in direct competition. This is like having a whole entire town with only one toilet and 4 plumbers. One of those plumbers or more of those plumbers are going to go out of business. There's just not enough market for all of these goods. Now, the problem for the North is that the North is losing. They have inferior goods for higher prices. Now, the South is winning. They have better goods for cheaper prices. Now, those better goods are coming to them from England. England has been manufacturing longer than the United States. They're practiced at it. They know how to do it faster and better and cheaper. And the South is producing cotton, which is very expensive on the world market, and they don't pay their labor. Okay, so this not paying their labor is known as slavery and saves them a lot of money. So they can charge, a third of what the other countries are charging for cotton and still make twice the profit. So now let's look at the North. The northern states controlled Congress, and they passed these tariffs, these import taxes, specifically to hurt the South. Take the goods coming into the United States from England, whatever price they were, that they negotiated, and they're going to have to sell them for making a profit. Now you have to add on that tax. Makes that price go way up and makes the Southerners lose money. Hopefully in the North, they want to drive the Southerners out of business. Well, here's the thing. If there's no slavery, then there's no tariff, because the North wouldn't compete with the South growing all this cotton, being able to trade on the world market, okay, and get goods that are better than the North is producing. Well, if the South doesn't have slavery, they can't produce that much cotton, and then therefore can't charge so little for it to get so much trade goods and basically just make so much money. So tariffs, it's not an independent cause. So because it loops right back to slavery. If there's no slavery, then the North isn't threatened, and then the North doesn't pass the tariff. So that's an economic competition thing that's going on there. Now, let's go back over here, and I'm going to fold this one up, and I'll open it up later so you can see it again. Looking at sectionalism. Okay, so sectionalism is the idea that people are more loyal to a particular region. So you would not think of yourself as an American. You would think of yourself as a Texan, a Virginian, a North Carolinian, that sort of thing first. You would think state or region first. Most people thought of themselves as a Southerner or a Northerner, a Yankee or a Southerner at this time. That's kind of how they viewed themselves. They didn't view themselves as, well, we're all Americans, let's hug. They really felt like they were loyal to one area and not another. So all of this is true. This idea that they're loyal to one area or another, the argument for sectionalism being an independent cause, though, just can't hold up, because the big disagreement, the kind of thing pushing this disagreement, this dislike, even open hostility between North and South, the two major sections of the country, if you will. The thing that's driving all that animosity or anger is, you guessed it, slavery. In the North, there is a group of people called the abolitionists who are calling for the end of slavery. They want to abolish slavery, which means get rid of it. Now, in the South, there are all sorts of people who are very frustrated by that. They depend on slavery to keep them wealthy. Now, that's a small group of people, but there's also a group of people who are very poor, and they view slavery as a potential social ladder. I can save up money, buy a slave, and then that slave can work for me while I go do another job, and now I have two incomes. If I do that over and over and over again, then I can become wealthy too. Now, that's not the real reality of it. That didn't happen all that much, but the reality is that they defended it because it was a possibility for them to gain a more affluent or wealthy future, just like the rich who defended it because it was the source of their wealth. So it all loops back to slavery, and sectionalism being fought about slavery means that if slavery goes away, sectionalism isn't an issue, and therefore sectionalism isn't an independent cause. Okay, so you can see that these things are all pseudo causes because they tie back to slavery. All right, so I'm going to open up all these for you so we can look at them. Okay, now I'm going to kind of pan across these, so if you need to write some things down, feel free to do so. Okay, if you need to go back and hear me talk about something or pause it again, that's the thing to do. That way you can get good notes on these and you can be prepared for class discussion tomorrow. So we'll move that up for sectionalism. Okay, guys, so I hope you've got this straight. If you have any questions, bring them to class with you. Have a good evening.